Okay, hey guys, back with the Uncle John show. So, let me get to this important thing. So, Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee had the sex tape. It was during the 90s. The reason why I'm bringing up the 70s and 80s because it has to do with certain events that happened during the 70s and 80s. It's related to the sex tape that happened during the 90s. The reason why I'm bringing that event up because it's very confusing because I'm trying to link things together so young children and young adults understand. Because lust is wrong. Modius, her Aphrodite's ability is to use lust to get you addicted to pornography and committing affairs and etc. So, Joe Rogan versus Carlos Mencia. Let me explain that further. Joe Rogan is a comedian. Carlos Mencia is a comedian. They're both comedians. Carlos Mencia has a show. Joe Rogan was on The Fear Factor. Carlos Mencia had a show. The whole thing is that with the Comedy Store, with Mitzi Shore and Paulie Shore, the thing that I'm bringing up with that event is that Joey Diaz is friends with Joe Rogan. He's friends with Carlos Mencia. And all of a sudden, Mitzi Shore, or one of the managers there, says to Joe Rogan, there's an event. They keep fighting with each other. They have a camera crew. They go into complete depth. All of a sudden, Joe Rogan helps out with the stage, with getting a microphone and acoustics and things related to speakers. So he was giving certain things, out-of-pocket expenses, to help out comedians at the Comedy Store. The thing is that I want to explain why it's related to certain things with Pamela Anderson. Is Pamela Anderson, she was a model. She was a model, ladies and gentlemen. She was a model. She had that she had the hold on. She had that show Baywatch, the TV show The Baywatch. She was a model. She did modeling events. She did things related to that, and all of a sudden she becomes an actress, and she tries to make a movie, and the movie doesn't do as well as expected. But things that have to do with Pamela Anderson that I find interesting, is everything like a spider web. It's all tangled. It's all tangled together. It's all related. So she struggled. So Pamela Anderson, because of that event with the sex tape, struggled with it. Tommy Lee struggled with it. He was in the band, in this major band, and he struggled as well. And Carlos Mencia, he was famous. He had his show. And then all of a sudden, after that or during that event, the show just dies off. All of a sudden, the show dies off. Joe Rogan goes to podcasting. Joey Diaz goes to podcasting. But Joey Diaz knows Joe Rogan. Joey Diaz knows Carlos Mencia. And he doesn't know what to do. What does he do in that event? He didn't know what to do. Because he got helped. Both people helped him in his comedy career. And that's something that I find interesting with the Comedy Store and Mitzi Shore, because Joe Rogan, I think, explains certain things with ghosts and supernatural events, and so did Joey Diaz. He explained it on his show, on the podcast and the show. And that's what is that's what, ladies and gentlemen, is a red, see, with my cup, it's red. It's a red flag to me. Because, see, Alan A-L-A-N, turning, T-U-R-I-N-G. When he was in the Vatican, and there's similar things with J. Oppenheimer, they saw, and I was there too as well, because to get into the Vatican, to the library system, because let me explain something. When I was in Princeton University, I got a PhD in archaeology, and I tried to get a PhD, and I think I got like a hybrid of it, but I got close. I have a master's in the library science degree, but I think I was like 2 or 3 credits away from getting a PhD in library science to become a practicing librarian, so I could study books for a living. Has to do with history and events. So there are objects. I'm just going to show you, ladies and gentlemen. There's a show called Warehouse 13. That show, there are things like librarians or Secret Service agents. They do this for a living. So there were things like this that they would have. It would say the name of what it is. It could be like Alexander Bell's invention or whatever, and you can't touch it. They had that in the Vatican, that was like alien related or monster related. That has to do with like vampires and werewolves and witches and magicians and etc. This is all related because I was a librarian. I would say this. I was a licensed and operated librarian, just like an archaeologist. Licensed and operated. With the background in computer engineering and cybersecurity and ethical hacking. All of these things that I'm explaining to you. The Vatican with their system. You have to get, in order to get into the Vatican, you have to get approval. You have to be in like R&D program or a graduate degree program to get into the Vatican. It is the same thing, ladies and gentlemen, with the Library of Congress or the Smithsonian Museum. They have things that is monster related and alien related, and they don't tell you. And I will say this. The person Carlos Mencia, and I bet you when he was famous, and even now, he knows that him, Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, all these people, all of his friends, even there's another person. I'll think of the person's name. I'll make another video of this. But these are things that are all related. And this is why, to me, it's very bizarre. So, there's a person by the name of Theo Vaughn, besides Joe Rogan. And there are people that, like, they kept bothering him. Like Joe Rogan. They said, I want to be on the podcast. I'm just going to make a little bit of a joke. This would be the background, okay? Now this would be almost like where Joe Rogan lives, and I am very interested. Like his house is in Texas over here. somebody's sleeping, or as an example, somebody is like, they're out there, ladies and gentlemen. There are people that do stalking, which is hilarious. It's funny. It's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. But there are people that kept texting and calling Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, and even there's a person I met in the city that was another funny comedian as well, and he even said, "You got to see this." Like they would show the cell phone here. One second. Like this was my old case. This is what would be one of my cases. They would go, You don't believe it. There's a beautiful woman. What? Joe. What the heck is going on? What's going on? That's what would go on with certain people that were famous. And that's what was funny. Because this is related to the Tate brothers. This is all correlated. He's got potential related to this. Don't look it up, young children, young adults. This is related to this thing that is called BDSM, or the sugar mommy or sugar daddy community. All related. Because I find it so fascinating. I apologize, Joe Rogan, with the pillow, but it's like in the AmeriCorps, and even I learned this with some of my friends in the Peace Corps and volunteers and things. It's like certain people, they don't know the word no, or they don't know the word boundaries, because Joe Rogan has dealt with people, they confronted him and they wanted to fight him, or one of his friends, and he puts him in a technique, he puts him in this grappling technique and knocks him out. Well, these, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen this in the MMA and etc. See, as a scientist, I have these goggles that I use probably for my medical degree. This is as old as can be. If I had my lab coat, I would probably show you as well. I started running not experiments, ladies and gentlemen. I started understanding theses and theories on things that Joe Rogan and some of these people like Joey Diaz started explaining, like Theo Vaughn, like his with the matter of the master of the dark arts, with magic and all this other stuff. See, ladies and gentlemen, Theo Vaughn, he's from Louisiana. So he has the what you call a hick mentality. And not only that, his father is Spanish. So he would understand a lot of this stuff with the supernatural. He would be traveling, and there would be certain things that would go on with stalking and things related to that nature. Hold on, everybody. So that's something that I wanted to explain. The success of Pamela Anderson, to me, is astonishing. Because what she went through is ridiculous. And it's the same thing with Kim Kardashian, even though that people don't like her. She went through some sort of success. Whether it was good, whether it was bad. She went through success. But I find it so interesting that all of Joe Rogan's friends, they would get phone calls, or they would say that they want to speak to Joe. They think that all of a sudden Joey Diaz or Theo Vaughn or any of these people, or Brendan Schaub, any of these people. I'm sorry for pronouncing certain names. I'm not that great with that. Or Brendan Schaub. Let's just say Brendan for the time being. All of them. Because even he went through that as well, with the podcasting as well. He went through it with, they would always, they would ask, he would get a phone call all of a sudden. Let me just make sure. I'll put it on this video as well. Yeah. Brendan. Okay. Sorry for pronouncing your last name. I'm not great with pronouncing last names. So Brendan went through that. And he has a podcasting account. So that's something that I have to explain. That's all card related, ladies and gentlemen. It has to do with the trick of the hands. And it's an art form. It's dark arts. It has to do with witchcraft and things related to that. And Brendan would understand that. Because you have to understand the mentality of MMA. The mentality of MMA is it's a mind game. It's a focus. These people go into an arena. There's two opponents. It's certain things that Bruce Lee and many of these martial artists explain. And you can't have in combat, in life, which is a form of combat and war. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, ladies and gentlemen. Satan and Lucifer go by almost like a track. And God goes by a marathon. Satan, Lucifer goes by a quick sprint, which is a lap around the track. God goes around a marathon multiple times. So Lucifer and Satan do things the quick way. Sell your soul. Sign a contract. And you'll get riches and reward. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's the red cup, the red flag. And that's what I was curious about in university. And all I was doing, ladies and gentlemen, is I was doing a version of video editing, and I would go and I would see these TMZ people, and I would go, ding, 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 ding. Hit this. Bing. Bang. And that's all I would do. I would start understanding these things as a private investigator. Because I had a private investigation, ladies and gentlemen. I had a carrying license. I had armed security license. I had to go through a background check to get those things, ladies and gentlemen, through credentials, which has to do with cards. And it was hard. It wasn't easy, me getting these licenses. It was very difficult. But paparazzi are like certain paparazzi are similar to people that are doing stalking. And some people have to put restraining orders on certain people. That's why I find it crazy that Joe Rogan is explaining things, and in Europe it's different. You can't do the things that go on in the United States with news and stuff like that. It's different in Europe. European news is different in Europe than it is in the United States. It's a whole different animal. And this is something that was explained to me, because it has to do with the pillow. People kept bothering Joe Rogan, and it disturbed me. And I started saying, why are people bothering him? And it's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen, with Andrew and Tristan Tate. The same thing was going on. And it is related to the BDSM and the sugar mommy or sugar daddy community. Because I wasn't in that community. There were things that went on with work-related or job-related that had to do with me. You know, no offense, I can't lie to you, ladies. I had to testify about sensitive subjects in the past. Even since teenage years. Even since childhood. I had to testify about things related to hospitals and courts and all of this stuff. And it wasn't easy for me. Because I had a speech impediment problem. Because I had severe allergies. So that's all I gotta say. I'm just very shocked, ladies and gentlemen. It's, you know, we're getting close to... It's October 7th. And it's going to be Kim Kardashian's birthday on the 21st. I don't do stalking, ladies and gentlemen. I had to make peace with Kim Kardashian. Because when I was a teenager, I want to explain this. When I was a teenager, I was a member of the union. And I was given a fancy card like this, but American Express, black card. This story I love. This story is a good one. So I was dating an older woman I was teenage years to a woman in her 30s. So, ladies and gentlemen, Victoria was very, very attractive. She was a model. How I pulled it off, I don't even know this till this day. But Victoria had a friend named, let's just say for the time being, her name was Sophia. And let's just say unexpected events happened. Haven't seen, now, in this time frame, I'm explaining this with Kim Kardashian. Haven't seen Kim since the funeral happened with her father. We haven't talked. She changed. All of a sudden, there's a show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. She becomes famous. She doesn't look the same. She looks different. She was in private school. I was in the private school, in public school, and yada, yada, yada. I was in foreign language when I was in Hofstra University and these other programs during the summer school times and etc. And she starts, so there's a restaurant that's in Grand Central. There's a seafood restaurant. I'm gonna put it on the description and the comments, etc. I have an American. I have what looks to be like an American Express card, but it was a black MasterCard. I didn't take out Victoria, which was my girlfriend. I took out Victoria's relative. She was a lot younger. She was in her 20s. So during this time, I was turning 17 to 18 years old. And I was in a construction union. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I had a license since I was a teenager. And they didn't care about the age restriction because they wanted the job done. They didn't care. And my boss at the time, Matt, and my boss at the time, Matt, and some of these people like John or Vincent or Vito, whoever the names were at the time, really my boss was named Matt. He explained to me they don't care about age. They want the job done. They don't want to screw around. You have to sign papers with a union contract. You got to sign papers that you're an apprentice. You got to follow the rules and regulations. They don't care. I'm in a time frame, ladies and gentlemen, where it's similar to events that have to do with like a person like Cat Williams. It's similar to events that happen to like Cat Williams, where you have to learn as you go, because my parents were struggling. They struggled. And Glenn Brock Sr. had gotten me this interview and this job. And it was like an internship, but it was an apprenticeship program that they offered in high school. It was a specialized program that they did for the school that I went to. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I struggled. It was very hard for me in the construction field. Because I was new. I didn't understand it. I did stuff. I was a junior in the Belmore Fire Department, and I eventually did certain things related to the FDNY and etc. This is after. So, Sophie is in her 20s. I'm 17, 18. Unexpectedly, Grand Central Station, there's a seafood restaurant. I go out to eat. It's just me and her. All of a sudden, Khloe Kardashian shows up. Now I know who Kourtney is. I know who Kim is. I don't know Khloe Kardashian. I don't know who she is. Kim shows up. Sophie knows both of those two people. And they're friends. They're all friends with each other. Then Victoria shows up. All of a sudden it goes from 2 people to 4 people to 5 people. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, women don't pay for anything. A gentleman pays for stuff. Now, as a teenager, with a flip phone or iPhone or whatever it was, it doesn't matter. What do you do in an instance where you have the same thing, a pre-corresponding event, just like Kanye and Pete Davidson, where he says, I'm buying whatever the heck I want. Let's buy off the special menu. That stuff wouldn't be tolerated in my livelihood. You need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the whole purpose of the Uncle John Show is to give children and young adults the true story of events. I was around mafia people. Mafia people are not mobsters. Mafia people, it's an acronym. Has to do with they're a part of the organized crime division. Organized crime division has to do with a mafia type of thing. It means being a gentleman. It's being a man. Now, people in the Teamsters Union, people in the CSEA, people in the federal government, they're organizations like a mafia. And they are a mafia. The police department, the Nassau County Police Department, the Suffolk County Police Department, the New York City Police Department, the Nassau County Sheriff's Department, the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. They're all a part of a mafia type of organization. They're organized crime. And they want to get paid. And they don't want to play games. And I was around a lot of people. And my father was around people that were in law enforcement. I can't lie. My mother was around law enforcement, and she was a nurse for over 30-something years. My dad was around police officers. Do you know why? Because all my relatives were in law enforcement. Even my mom said, yes, John, your relatives in the Grantner and Gatchen family, they work for Homeland Security, they work for the NSA, they work for the FBI, they work for the ATF, they work for the police department. They're a secretary to the President of the United States all of a sudden. They're a spokesman. Like the Curfey family. All these people. The Fry family. F-R-Y. Native American people. Related to the Grantner family. That are related to these oil people in the Native American culture out in the Midwest. So these are things that were shocking to me. Like this Broom technique. and like the video games with swatting. I wouldn't tolerate that. Try do that. No offense, I don't mean to be rude. Try doing that with one of my relatives that are in law enforcement. Do me a favor. Try doing that with my friends in law enforcement. Don't do that to me. If you do that to me, I'll find it hilarious. Because I'll just say, I need to speak to the President of the United States. Because that's where, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm at. Because Donald Trump needs to start explaining certain things. Ladies and gentlemen, how is George Gaetjen, my grandfather, related to him? How is Mrs. James or Mr. Mosley going to explain an itemized bill and a contract in the matter of days or so? And how exactly is a disabled person, because I'm Social Security disabled, I find this hilarious. I'm so happy I'm doing this show. It's a form of therapy to me. How does a disabled person become a millionaire or a billionaire at the same exact time? And to me, what I find crazy related to this thing with President Donald Trump, which I find crazy, which is related to Joe Rogan, which he had to deal with stalking. He should understand. Donald Trump should understand who John George Trump is, and why is George, my grandfather, linked to this person, John George Trump? And who is the Christ family? Donald Trump. How is the Christ family related to the Gita family? And how my grandfather, George, doesn't use Gita, the Gaeta, and how it's a place in Italy, and how my great-grandfather's original name was Gaetjen's, but originally it wasn't Gita, it was Mandrucula. So that's things I want to explain. How I handed you, Mrs. James, an itemized bill or contract multiple times. How I cannot be labeled a workman's comp attorney. There is no way you can explain that to any judge in the entire planet. Not Judge Vasquez, not Judge McCarthy, not Judge Crowley, none of them. Not Judge Costello, none of them. They don't even understand that. Doesn't make any sense. And it has to do with the judiciary branch, ladies and gentlemen. Has to do with the judiciary branch. The judiciary branch, during the separation of powers, they have a right to stop an election with these events that go on. And you, President Trump, you had me listed. I was listed in Mineola and upstate in Binghamton and Buffalo and Albany as an election committee official. And I had to testify about things even prior to Rudy Giuliani's case with election interference. Not only did I have to testify, but things were related to your daughter, Ivanka Trump. President Trump, let me ask you a question. Why was I getting a PhD at Georgetown University, and it was related to actuary or accounting PhD, and that has to do with auditing related materials? That's related to commerce law and a business law. Commerce law and business law, they're similar in nature, but they're different. Commerce law versus business law. What's the difference? Why is the Universal Commercial Code so important to accountants, medical, and law? And why does a woman like Kim or Chloe, you see this picture, ladies and gentlemen? This is a successful woman right here. This would be me. A field guide to shy guys, bad boys, intelligent, intellectual, cheaters, everything in between. Has to do with intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. Related to that materials. So Is this you, President Trump? See, would be a wall right here. This would be a wall. How much ass can you kiss with the Russian people? Mwah! 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 Ass. This is a wall. This is Jerusalem. How much kissing do you have to kiss the wall? Mwah! 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 I have not ever seen this. I'm going to say this to you. I have not ever seen, I apologize, so much ASS kissing in my entire life, a wall. Who kisses a wall? Do you know, President Trump, do you know who kisses a wall? Who goes to a wall? Did Joshua Christ, now every person says, I denounce the Joshua Christ. Have you ever seen I find this so fascinating, Benjamin Netanyahu. I find this ridiculous with the Torah. That you gotta touch a wall. This is a wall. This would be a wall, for example. You gotta touch the wall. Oh my, it's the wall. It's a wall. We're not of this earth, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, oh no. So, this is another thing I find fascinating. See, I have a relative that's a Mossad agent. Not one relative, 10 to 20 relatives. How much tuchus do you gotta kiss? That's like touching the wall might as well be a pretty woman or a deity person. Oh no, I can't touch it. It's a wall. What are you doing? It's like you touching a pillow. It's a pillow. So, I got a question. Steve Jobs, in memory of Steve Jobs with this watch here. So, you're telling me you have the iPhone, you have the Google Pixel, you have the Samsung, you got this plug, you got these devices that store, battery and etc. So you go to Jerusalem, and this is explained in Fox News. We spend $15 billion. Is it a year? Is it a month? Is it a day? Why are we giving $15 billion to Jerusalem? And another thing, too, if we're giving $15 billion to Jerusalem, what the heck are we giving the Vatican? And why is Jewish people's gold and Muslim people's gold, like the Arabian Peninsula, why is it underneath or hidden or stored like a pillow? Because in the mobsters' organization, they would hide stuff. They were laundering money. So you're saying to 15 million, you're touching the wall, you're going, mwah, mwah, mwah. What are you kissing? What are you kissing? The Lord God, Yahweh, his real name is Joseph. He's laughing at you. I can hear it to this day. I've had weird, bizarre dreams, or things I've seen that God explained to me. Through the Holy Scriptures, ladies and gentlemen, through the Holy Scriptures, and through certain people that are priests and memes and rabbis. So, you're kissing a wall? And let me ask you something, President Donald Trump. How much debt do you owe the Russian government? Because you do owe the Russian government. You do owe the Arabian Peninsula. You owe the Saudi Arabian people money with that the Taj Mahal, with that casino. Because I'm going to go for 40 minutes plus. that whole thing is a catastrophe. Your own father, Fred Trump, would roll over in his grave. Because how do you not have a casino license? How did you not? You went 20 plus times bankrupt? There's no way you're a billionaire and you go bankrupt like that. 20 plus times. I checked this. I did check this. I'm not trying to be rude or condone him in any way. I'm just explaining how Mr. Wynn and those people in Vegas, I find it crazy. I find it ridiculous. And it has to do with things related to a broom technique, which has to do with swatting on the internet, which is nuts to me. And no offense, President Donald Trump, you do need to start answering questions. Mrs. James, who's the AG, Mrs. The Secretary of State, Mr. Mosley, and prior to that was Mr. Rodriguez. You do need to start answering questions because you owe me money. There's no way. There is no way. I'm just saying with this Numic incident, there's no way that I should not be getting paid by now. It's been past the time. And you need to start answering these questions from the American public. Like, where is their emergency funds? Why aren't you dispersing the funds to the military system? Why aren't you dispersing the funds to the Central Intelligence Agency? Why aren't you dispersing funds to the Federal Bureau of Investigation? Why are you shorting the police departments and the sheriff's departments and the marshals and the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms? Why are you shorting the Homeland Security Division? Who is in charge? Is Satan and Lucifer, who's the Statue of Liberty model, is that person in charge of our country? Or is somebody else in charge? Let me repeat that. Is Lucifer and Satan in charge of our country? Because it seems to me like it is. Like this is something that are events related to this book of Revelations and the Antichrist. And you, President Trump, kept saying the golden age of Saturn. That has to do with Satanistic things. And you're saying all of a sudden you're the chosen one. You're not the chosen one. Joshua Christ can say, yes, I'm the chosen one, but I'm not the only person. Joshua Christ said this. He's not the only person to be a version of what you call a Messiah. There were Enoch, there were other people, there were other prophetess that can be versions of what you call a Messiah. And this is the thing that I started getting answers. That has to do with time. Has to do with time and space. Has to do with time travel. I can't be afraid of police departments when the police need to get paid correctly. If they're getting paid, ladies and gentlemen, let's say they're getting paid $50 an hour and they should be getting a $25 raise. And I was involved in the contract and I was involved in that. It's the same thing with SAG because artificial intelligence was like one of my relatives' designs and I designed some of that stuff. And I have to hold myself accountable with the American film and television and radio and such. If they got to get an extra $25 an hour, how come you're not paying those policemen? You caused it. This event with Numic is related to the Rockefeller Hospital as well. Because there was inappropriate touching. There was texting, which was sexting. And then there was this thing related to that with the ASS. Who are you kissing? Who is the person that is in charge? Because Mr. Donald Trump, I don't think you're in charge of your own country right now. The country is going out of control. You think that tariffs are just going to answer everybody's questions, and that's not going to work. And I'm going to say this to you, President Trump. I am ashamed of you. Your own daughter is struggling. And a friend of Ivanka's is Paris Hilton. And her relatives are struggling as well. How are billionaires and millionaires struggling? And how are you not resolving this thing that has to do with business identity theft? Because this ID.me company is military contracted. The Schaub, which is the parent company of that, is Early Warning Services, is affiliated with this, no offense, this Pornhub and this other parent company, this MindGeek or whatever it is. They're all affiliated with each other. And I'm going to say this, Mr. President Trump. What are you doing about it? Because it seems to me like you're just repeating events. In that Reformation, and when you were first inaugurated, you had my name and my signature on it. And I didn't get paid. Not even a person that's related to the Tates is Janine. She didn't even get paid. Because she has a relative named Valerie. She didn't get paid. Ivanka Trump didn't get... Nobody got paid. There's like 20 to 30 plus people. Nobody's gotten paid. And I sent you an itemized bill and contract. I'm going to go 50 minutes, no more. I'm finished after this. So take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day. Remember, God is always watching. And don't be afraid of people in life. And yes, there is a higher being, and there is a war between God and Satan and Lucifer. And Satan and Lucifer are two different people. They're not one person. God is facing two different entities that is very hard for them. Very hard for himself. And it's time that Joshua, the original version of Joshua, not Jesus Christ, but the original version of Joshua, the prophet Joshua and prophet Joseph, they're going to come like a train. And you're not going to follow the rules. Just like that prophet Moses with these events. There's going to things that are going to start happening. And you're going to start saying to John, to me, JJ, why is these events happening? Because I was what you call a messenger prophet person. I'm just delivering the message. It's what I read in these holy scriptures. And it's what I see in the news. So take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day.